The old Subaru XV is dead. Long live the new Subaru XV. Subaru Philippines has officially decided to drop the XV nameplate in lieu of the new name, the Subaru Crosstrek. But name aside, does the new Subaru Crosstrek still have what it takes to be a bestseller? Well, in this video, let's find out. Let's first establish what exactly this car is beside me. Well, this is the top spec 2.0 IS eyesight trim of the Crosstrek. Over here at the front, Subaru has now changed your grille. It's a little bit more aggressive compared to before, but I really don't get the shapes and the patterns that it's trying to give us, because yeah, there's just a little bit too much going on over there. What I do like are the lights though, and how they're kind of protruded outwards. Also, for this IS trim, you get auto levelizers for your headlamps, you get LED headlamps as well as DRLs too. And here by the bottom, you even get fog light. This still has a ground clearance of 220 millimeters, making it one of the highest, if not the highest car in its class. Now, your rims, these are also new now, and they're a little bit more chromed out compared to before. 18 inches too, looks a lot better too. And in line with that whole very adventurous image of the XV and the Crosstrek, Subaru did retain your roof rails over at the top. Now again, let's go back a little bit lower towards the vehicle. And you'll notice that this car has a lot of these fender arches and over fenders. Definitely taken straight out of the WRX sedan, which really does divide opinion, but again, personally, I really love the look of it. There are some of these holes right here which are supposedly functional for the WRX, but for the Crosstrek, are they functional? That I'm not too sure. By the rear, I love how Subaru went for a little bit of an evolution instead of a revolution. So this still looks pretty similar to the previous generation XV, right? However, the changes that they made here really make an impact. For example, this one, your tail lamps, yes, they are LEDs, but now they have a new shape to it. It looks like crab claws, which is very in line with, modern models of Subaru. Over at the top, they maintain this very tiny spoiler as well as your high mount stoplight. You still have a wiper, of course, and by the bottom, you even have a faux diffuser wrapped in faux carbon. Now, also, an upgrade right here would be your power tailgate. And while it is pretty slow, it is nice to have. Inside here, space isn't exactly the biggest, because if you do lift up this floor, there is a space saver spare tire in there. However, for this class, this is about standard, and just in case you really do need extra space, you can still fold down those rear seats 60/40. The XV nameplate may be gone, but the XV powertrain definitely isn't, because what you have under the hood is still the exact same 2-liter flat-4 boxer engine, naturally aspirated of course, making 156 horsepower and 196 Newton meters of torque paired to a CVT. And on paper, that doesn't sound like much, but do stay tuned for the driving impressions, whether or not I'll tell you if it's more than enough. Spoiler alert, it is. Now for fuel economy, honestly, it's not too great. Inside the city, heavy city traffic, you're looking at around 5.4 kilometers per liter. And on the highway, only around 13 kilometers per liter. Now inside the Subaru Crosstrek, first we check the door thud. And that's about okay, especially for a Japanese car, that is about good. Now, the interior of the Subaru Crosstrek is a little bit of a mixed bag, because there are parts of it which look very modern, but some parts of it don't. So what do I mean by that? For example, this center touchscreen is an 11.6-inch vertical touchscreen that's super responsive, comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and even gets a reverse camera plus a 360-degree top-down view camera. You even have a USB-C port over here, you have a USB-A port, you have a wireless charging pad, but for some reason the rest of the interior, well, yeah, it looks like what Subaru has been using for the past 10 years or so. The plastics are about okay in terms of the materials, and here on the side there are soft touch materials, but really the design wise and the aesthetics of it, it's not really standing out too much. The steering wheel, at least, that is leather wrapped, and you get paddle shifters, and just like any other Subaru out there, you can tilt and telescope it to find your perfect driving position, and it even goes back pretty far back. Your instrument cluster though, it's not digital. Yes, there is a small screen by the center, but you would really expect a fully digital instrument cluster at this price range, yet, well, Subaru doesn't give you that. But what's good about this car though is that although they're trying to digitalize some parts of it, including your buttons for your AC system, they at least did leave out touchscreen buttons for your fan speed up and fan speed down, which is Really, I really thank Subaru for that. At least they put that. Anyway, that aside, here by the center you have a regular shifter, you have an electronic parking brake, and on top you have a sunroof. Plus, you get 6 airbags in this car, in addition to your entire suite of advanced driver assistance systems, courtesy of EyeSight 4.0. Oh, one final thing, the seats, really ergonomic too, 10-way power adjustable with lumbar support for the driver's side, while only manually adjustable for the passenger. Now, getting towards the rear of the Subaru XV, at least for elderly people, is relatively easy because it isn't too high. You don't really have to climb into the car nor squat into it too much. However, if you're gonna fit child seats in here, despite having ISOFIX tethers, you might have a little bit of a hard time because the door doesn't really open nice and wide. But anyway, now that we are back here, let's first check the door thud. Okay, pretty good. A little bit better than the front. Anyway, now that we're back here, unfortunately, the front materials, the soft touch bits of it, they don't really continue too much over here. So yes, there's a lot of hard touch plastics here. Although where your arms will touch, there's a little bit of vinyl over there. But space is pretty good. Legroom is okay. Headroom, though, is a little bit limited, especially if you're on the taller side. But for toys, you do get some of them back here. So you get your own armrest, you get 2 cup holders, you get a USB-A port, a USB-C port, as well as a map pocket. Now, if you do want to seat a third person in here, I would say it's doable for shorter journeys, but overall, probably not, because number one, you have a huge transmission tunnel, and the car isn't really the widest. So now we drive the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek, and I really love driving this vehicle because of how sedan-like it feels. While it is definitely a proper crossover SUV, they didn't go all out in making it feel extremely rugged. This one still feels sedan-like in the sense that it's pretty comfortable, it handles pretty well too, and thanks to its boxer engine, which is mounted so low down there in the hood, as well as your symmetrical all-wheel drive system, it is a very compliant car as you throw it around corners. The engine too, even though 156 horsepower and 196 newton meters of torque doesn't really sound like much on paper, but because it's mated to this well-tuned CVT, which barely rubber bands and it doesn't really groan too much, it makes out for a pretty fun driving experience. I wouldn't say it's fast, it definitely isn't, but it's sprightly enough, and it's more than enough for your daily trips as well as your occasional highway runs, even if you have this car fully loaded with 5 people. Another strong point of the Subaru Crosstrek would be its noise insulation, because here inside the city, even if there's like these open pipe jeepneys beside you, as well as these motorcycles also probably with open pipes, their noises don't really permeate too much into the cabin. And even if you're going at high speeds too on the highway, you don't really hear too much of wind noise as well as tire noise. And I have a feeling, as for wind noise at this, the placement of your wing mirrors plays a very big part. Now let's talk about the suspension over here. And overall, it's a very comfortable ride, although a little bit firm when it comes to the front suspension. However, if you do take this car over extremely bad roads, like I'm talking about A. Bonifacio Avenue near Balintawak in Quezon City, well, you'll find that the rear suspension for some reason is a little bit too wallowy and soft. It just moves on a little bit too much, which kind of upset my stomach as well as the stomach of my passenger. And that is so weird because usually either everything is firm or everything is soft, but for this one, the front is firm, the rear is not. While the handling of the Subaru Crosstrek is pretty good overall, especially for its class, what I'm not a big fan of would be its steering, because while it is so light and perfect for the city, once you do want to push this car and push it to the limits of its handling, which it can easily do, the steering kind of fails you. It's a little bit too numb, it's a little bit too light. It just doesn't feel like a Subaru. And I know that modern Subarus nowadays, they have lighter steerings, they have this electronic power assist steering. Yeah, I get that, but still, it is a little bit too light for a Subaru. With those two minor downsides aside though, I want to end this driving impressions of the Subaru Crosstrek on a good note, and that is its visibility as well as eyesight. Right? Visibility and eyesight. Anyway, visibility first. As the driver, you see so much out of this vehicle. I mean, all the windows are pretty large. You have a reverse camera, you have a top-down 360-degree view camera, and even here by the side of your windows, the wing mirrors are mounted on the doors instead of on the pillars, which really does add into your visibility even more. And you can even jack up these seats pretty high, which give you the flexibility of giving you this driving position of an SUV, but you can also put it down so low to give you extra lower center of gravity for that enhanced handling and sedan-like feel. And finally, for the EyeSight system in here, this now uses Subaru's EyeSight 4.0, and it simply is the best in the industry. This works in stop-and-go traffic excellently. It's not jerky at all, and it even works well on the highway. And not only that, the autonomous emergency braking system of this, Subaru even demoed it to us with a real live person, and it works perfectly. Even in the older EyeSight systems, I've already tried it. If you want to check out our old video on the previous XV, you can just click up here. It works too. So can you imagine how much better it is with this EyeSight 4.0 version? Its automatic steering too, this lane keeping assist, is also really good. No, really, when it comes to advanced driver assistance systems, you really cannot go wrong with Subaru's EyeSight 4.0. Subaru's smallest crossover may have dropped the XV nameplate, but it sure hasn't dropped the features and what has always made it become great. It has that boxer engine, it has symmetrical all-wheel drive, and it has Subaru's excellent EyeSight system, plus ground clearance and ease of use and practicality. Pretty much has everything, right? However, we do have to talk about pricing, because this 2024 Subaru Crosstrek is a whopping 2,018,000 pesos. And years ago, when the XV was first introduced, the features that it had was groundbreaking and, quite frankly, game-changing. But in 2024, that price tag is a little bit hard to justify.